All right, so I actually thought I was going to lose my life earlier today.
I want you to grab that power plug right there.
I need something on a carpet, no pressure.
Go!
Here he goes. Remember, 1 out of 10.
And I could die from this.
1 out of 10.
From this voltage.
Right here. Oh, easy. It's all about faith. Here he goes.
And that's all thanks to this guy here. Go ahead, tell us your name and who you're with.
So I'm Gary Testa, President and CEO of Engineered Fluids, and I wouldn't purposely kill you.
You might do it on accidentally.
Accidentally, we might get you. You never know.
Yeah, so when it comes to the fluids, I'm completely new to the crypto space. I've been learning a lot over the last couple days.
Okay.
And today I found out that you put computers in liquid to actually keep them cooled. How did you get into like the crypto world and
immersion cooling?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so it's actually kind of a crazy story. I was working down here in Florida, running a company that was looking to put high-capacity data processing systems into data centers.
Okay.
And data centers are traditionally cooled with air, lots of cold air.
Right.
So the challenge is that in most modern data centers, they only build them to about 5 kW of heat and power per rack. And the racks have 42 spots to put servers. Well, our device used 17 kilowatts of power. So every time I walk into a data center to go get my box installed, they're like, yeah, no worries. We're going to sell you 4 full racks so that you can put your one box. So I'd have these 4 big racks, this one box, about 6 U's sitting in the middle of it.
Right.
And I'd be getting charged all this. So I said, there's got to be a better way. So I started asking around, and somebody eventually told me to say, hey, you got to go talk to Dr. David Sundin. He has this magic fluid that will cool electronics. And I'm like, I'm in. So I tracked David down.
Okay.
And I had our first meeting. David shows up, and we're talking, and he whips out a mason jar with clear fluid, and he goes, this is the solution. And my first thought was, we're going to go into moonshining.
Right.
And he goes, no. He goes, I can put any electronics in this fluid. And I said, there's no way.
What?
I'd never heard of it. I had no idea what immersion cooling was. And David's been doing this for 40 years.
Whoa.
He's been developing these dielectric coolants and putting electronics, primarily a very high-powered power transformers, are cooled traditionally with mineral oil and PCBs and all these kind of heinous chemicals. So David had been working for 7 years in his garage to develop what is now we call ElectriCool, which is our biodegradable, non-toxic dielectric coolant. And we can effectively take any off-the-shelf electronics, drop it into our fluid. Because the fluid has such a high heat density, it's able to remove the heat, and because it's material compatible, it doesn't affect the actual processing. So we thought we'd go conquer the data center world.
Right.
Well, I missed on one small aspect of that strategy. Data center guys are about as conservative as they get. So the first guys that we showed it to said, yeah, this sounds good. But we've been doing it this way for 20 years, and we don't see any reason
Always
to change.
do it this way.
Yeah, exactly. You know it. It's like, I'm not going to change. And
Right.
so we had to pivot. We had to find a market that had the same problem, but didn't have all the reluctance to really try something new. In the data center world, they were talking about making improvements that would do like 1 or 0.25% improvement. And David's solution was like a 40 to 60% improvement in efficiency.
Wow.
And nobody believed us. So we started contacting my buddies that were kind of in the mining space, and I said, hey, I think we can cool it. So one of the guys came back and said, we tested it, we know it works, but you got to come up with a fluid specifically for crypto. And hence we invented BitCool. So David put all the material compatibility required for miners, ASIC miners, and we started marketing BitCool, and it's history. Now we have over 1.75 million devices globally immersed in BitCool and ElectriCool cooling devices.
Awesome. Mining Bitcoin.
Mining Bitcoin.
Or whatever other stuff are they doing?
We do electric vehicles,
Yeah.
batteries, lasers.
Whoa.
We do LEDs at sound stages. I mean, the the applications are endless, and we have people calling us every day with something
No.
totally new. I mean, I'll give you a great example. So we have a customer that makes like 50-ton dump trucks for mines,
Okay.
who is like electrifying them. And he says, do you understand what the impact of electrifying all of this mining equipment is? Now, when I'm talking mining here, I'm talking about like moving gold ore and tailings out of a
Dirt.
mine.
Right.
Dirt.
Yeah.
We're moving dirt. We're not
Yeah.
making Bitcoin.
Right.
So, and I'm like, I have no idea. He's like, now we have to build 2 mine shafts because air comes in one and out the other if we use diesel and gasoline powered equipment. But if we do electric equipment cooled with your fluid, we only need to dig
hole.
one hole,
Whoa.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so the world, everything is going electric. Cars are going
Yeah.
electric. Planes, money. Yeah, right. Bitcoin, right? I mean, it's all.
Yeah.
Everything is going electric, and so we sit really in that great nexus of all these old technologies turning into electric. And the big challenge with electricity is it generates heat, and all of the performance of all of this equipment is based on your ability to get rid of the
Remove
heat.
it.
And that's what we do. But on top of that, what's great about our solution, and one of the reasons I'm a passionate surfer, fisherman, boater, is, a lot of these big data centers, they're using lots of water, potable water to cool all those air conditioners. We use no water. The other thing is that they're dumping all that heat back into the atmosphere, whereas we can capture it in our fluid and reuse it. We have people heating fish farms, greenhouses, breweries. We're heating people's pools. And it's all stuff that they were already doing. But now, they're mining Bitcoin first, generating the same amount of heat. And now we're doing 2 things. They're still getting the same benefit they had using the same amount of electricity, but now they're also getting the benefit of creating Bitcoin at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, and then also overclocking the machines. That was a big thing, right? Because it's mining Bitcoin is competitive.
That's right.
It's beat your neighbor for sure.
No, you're 100% correct. I mean, the big motivation when we started this, the green motivation now is probably one of the bigger drivers, but the original primary motivation was it was really expensive and hard to find miners. Right? And it was a big risk. You had to send a lot of money over to China, and you weren't sure if you were going to get what you ordered or when you were going to get it. So there were a lot of ambivalence. Here, we could take an existing miner and make it run at 140 to 160% of its intended hash rate by immersing it in fluid.
Yeah.
At the same time, increasing its overall reliability. So it wasn't like a lot of these situations where, by doing what you're doing, you're having a big negative impact on your investment. Here, not only were we making it run faster, not only were we saving you electricity, but we're actually making your investment in your equipment last longer. So it was a perfect storm.
Yeah.
And now we've been adopted globally. It's a lot of fun, and it's great to see as we walk around Mining Disrupt now here in 2022. People used to think I was crazy when I told them what we were going to do. Now there's 20 companies out building tanks and systems, and we provide the fluid to a lot of them.
That's what we were seeing with Bitmain's tank out there. Seen that one that was all water
with all the tubes and stuff.
liquid cooled.
Yeah.
And it was to the chip. So I don't know if you guys are doing that one.
No, so we do full immersion. So there's kind of a couple of different technologies. There's what are called direct to chip, where you basically have to build custom heat sinks that are filled with water, and then you have to have a water chilling system, and you have to circulate all that water through. It looks effective, but it has one huge drawback. You're not going to find me anywhere near a whole bunch of water next to a whole bunch of
kilowatts.
Of electricity. It's a disaster waiting to happen, and it's already happened in the data center industry because that same technology has been used, and there are instances where you get a leak, and now you got a massive short. And so that's one. The other one is two-phase cooling, where you use a fairly toxic product that evaporates when it comes into contact, and then you have to reconstitute that gas back into a liquid. So that's called two-phase cooling. That's where you directly immerse it. So 3M's the big proponent of that, but like just happened to them in Belgium, they just shut down that factory because of the environmental concerns for those fluids. So then there's us, single phase liquid immersion. So our product is biodegradable, non-toxic. We're rated food grade by the National Science Foundation. It doesn't evaporate, because that's a big concern. People always thought that was cool. You know, you pulled your device out of your two-phase coolant and it was dry. Well, my first question was, well, where did all that stuff go? Well, you just breathing it in. It's all in the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's not like it disappears.
Yeah, right. It's not, it's not like, whoop, it's gone.
Yeah.
It didn't like magically jump back into the, into the system or anything like that.
Right.
So,
That's funny.
Yeah, so with our system, things are easy. Yeah. It's easy. The fluid stays in the container.
Yeah.
Fluid lasts 10 years.
Whoa.
Fluid's compatible. You don't have to change anything in a lot of your equipment. You're not forcing vendors to make huge changes. Like here for this liquid cooling, you got 1,000 little connectors and tubing.
Yeah, that's what the one that we went into and checked that out.
Yeah.
Very complex, and the guy was like, it's very expensive too, the overhead redesign of that whole thing.
Right.
Well, and one of the things they don't tell you is they have to spend a huge amount of money on leak protection and leak mitigation.
Right.
If you're in there and all of a sudden you get a water leak and you're standing there with, half a megawatt or a megawatt and a half of electricity, very scary.
Yeah.
On us, I could walk into any mine in the country, spray everyone and everything in the mine with our fluid, and the only thing we'll have to do is clean it up. Won't affect the equipment, the people, the environment.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's
good.
It is.
Yeah.
We're real excited about it, and we're real excited that we're seeing the adoption. But for me, one of the most satisfying things is that we're really doing something good for the environment. And one of the, I think, biggest misunderstandings about crypto gets a lot of bad press about power use and things. But what most people don't realize is a lot of these power generators must operate their power generation facilities at least 85 to 90% capacity.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a place to put that electricity, then you either have to shut that power plant down, or you simply have to disperse all that energy. Here, the miners are actually providing a really great service. They're actually sucking up a lot of that excess power,
Right.
and doing something that's creating wealth and opportunity with it. And with our fluid, you're basically creating a much more beneficial approach to it, something that's much more sustainable. So I think between what we do with immersion and what the miners have done in terms of utilizing excessive power and being able to curtail that, there's a real benefit to this. And it's a shame that the press hasn't picked up on that kind of dual strategy. They always focus on the bad because it's more exciting.
Right.
Yeah, and I that's what sells.
Yeah.
Right. If it bleeds, it leads. Right.
Yeah,
and that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
but obviously, what? So in this is a little bit different interview than we've done in the past, where we're talking about people who are actually the miners.
Sure.
Right. Now you're a supplier.
We mine too, but
Yeah, and so that's what I was going to say is, so what you guys mine, you own crypto, what was your experience like, kind of coming into the space, and we're talking, 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
we dunked our first miner was a very early S9, so probably 6 years ago.
Yeah. And that's about the time that we were looking at cooling technology too, with some of our other clients that were building these facilities and we're helping them build them and looking at the technology. So tell us kind of your journey now, having owned crypto, mined it, and kind of understanding what it's like going through a couple of different cycles, right?
Sure.
Where the prices are up, the prices are down.
Yeah. So for us, we think we play an important role in the mining in that we're one of the few infrastructure, and have been for a long time, that you can purchase with Bitcoin.
Okay.
Because one of the things that I always stress about this is that Bitcoin has value because of what you can do with it. In other words, if we just were creating something that you couldn't buy things with, there really wouldn't be any underlying value. You have to be able to trade it. And so as a vendor to the industry, one of the things that we said is that, hey, we'll set up a totally separate company that'll accept Bitcoin, and then give us cash as engineered fluids, and then we'll provide products. So customers through our intermediary company can actually purchase our product for Bitcoin. And that's how we started collecting Bitcoin to start with. Then as we got into this a little deeper, we started doing testing. Well, as we started doing testing, we started mining.
Yep.
Okay. And again, we had to use our intermediary company because a lot of banks won't bank you if you trade or utilize cryptocurrency.
Right.
So we keep that in a totally separate organization, away from engineered fluids. But we think overall, at some point, this is all going to come together. We follow all the right rules in terms of trading and taxation and everything, but there's still this weird stigma. And I find it very funny from the banking industry of all industries because, they have crypto funds and crypto ETFs and all this, but then I'll get a phone call. Oh, we think you accept Bitcoin as payment, so we're going to terminate your account.
Wow. Well, speaking of it all coming together,
that's kind of interesting you're bringing this up because we just put together a deal with a bank, right, where they're going to do a couple of things for us. One, they're processing some payments for us in terms of ACH.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Same day settlement.
Great.
Right, and we are building an app for them, for customers who, like Visa and MasterCard, have deemed to be unbankable when they shut off accounts, right?
Yes.
So this app will actually allow you to go in, like if you walk into, and these are from firearms manufacturers, one use case, right?
Okay.
So they make it or they sell them as a retailer.
Okay.
But if you go in and they say, oh, we can't take a Visa or MasterCard, we're building an app for them so that they can go in, download that app, connect their Visa MasterCard, right?
Okay.
A debit card, and then make that purchase within minutes.
Oh wow!
Right.
Okay.
And then it settles at this banking partner. So we have the fiat currency that we can settle, but we're using our payment app, and then also doing some stablecoin things with this bank, and they're partnering with us because they see the future. Right.
Well, then you found a pretty innovative bank.
Absolutely, these guys are not usual. Yeah, and that's probably something we should talk to you guys about in terms of what SmartFi does. That's how we got into this business, funding miners.
Yeah.
Right. So they needed a way to either they had to find somebody who would accept Bitcoin, right, like you, or they had to take their Bitcoin, convert it to dollars through somebody like us, and then we would actually allow them to manage the process where a lot of them don't want to sell the Bitcoin.
Right.
And they don't want to give it up.
Right.
Right. So we would lend them dollars against the Bitcoin. Right. So we're a non-bank lender to cryptocurrency miners.
Sure.
And then we would structure that, and so they could be the beneficiary of the run up.
Yep.
Or we would help them hedge on the way down.
Right.
So that they didn't lose their opportunity for the run up.
Yep.
Right. And so we kept them even. So we got them to like a dollar currency, and if the price came down, they would have had to sell it anyways. So they would sell it, when it was doing that. But if it runs up, then they made that difference.
That's right. Yeah, that's really clever. I mean, one of the things that we have just started looking at because we're seeing demand are, people are asking us is, will we fund will we provide it either on account or as a vendor, that's really hard, right? Because when I have
the dollars.
Well, I need the dollars to grow,
Yeah.
right? We have a lot of demand, so I need partners that are willing to fund against those, quote unquote non-traditional assets, things like Bitcoin, or even fund like our product. We've collateralized that for a couple of them, and what's interesting is because our product lasts 10 years, we can fully reprocess it. It's truly a collateral, it can be collateralized.
Yeah, you can go back and get it.
Exactly. We can go back and get it. We have a ready market for it. We can reprocess it into new product.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting, and we ought to be getting together and figuring out some ways that we can do that. So if your customers are setting up accounts on SmartFi, they can then go borrow money.
I'd love that.
And pay that to you, and then go through this process. And then they still have the upside that they can gain, if it's running up to, double or triple. We've seen that with a lot of our clients. When we started this, Bitcoin was $1,500.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys were able to hold that for years and then start selling out when it was like at 13,000, 20,000. They were making a killing.
Yeah.
And they were paying some interest over time, but it was nothing compared to what they did.
What their return was.
Yeah. So, no, it's great.
Thank you.
Awesome. And catch the footage.
Yeah. That's right.
Flying out of his shoes.
So I'm Gary Testa, President and CEO of Engineered Fluids. We manufacture single-phase dielectric fluids for cooling anything from Bitcoin miners to any kind of electrical server devices, GPUs, battery systems, lithium-ion batteries. And thank you.